Hi everybody, I'm Paul. Welcome to my Curious Corner of Controversy. Today we're going to be talking about The Witcher Season 1 series on Netflix. There might be spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, possibly run away screaming or watch and be spoiled. But either way, here we go. So if you watch the Witcher video game one, you might have a little information. If not, the TV show kind of does a horrible job at really filling in the lore that really encompasses the Witcher world. Mostly based off of Polish folklore. There's monsters, demons, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, witches, zombies, ghouls, you name it, there's something in there. One of the coolest ones, I think, which made an amazing first appearance in the show in the first episode, is the Kikimora, which is like a crab, spider, kind of human-headed creature that's, I don't know, 20 feet across, that is creepy and gnarly. But throughout the world of the Witcher universe, there's all kinds of monsters. Witchers are usually abandoned or sometimes kidnapped children who undergo all kinds of experiments, surgeries, all kinds of stuff to make them somewhat superhuman, super strong, fast, heightened senses. One of their signature things are their cat eyes. They can see in the darkness. Geralt, who is the main character played by Henry Cavill in the Netflix series, is supposedly the most scientifically altered and experimented on Witcher, and has more powers than the others. They don't really explain it in detail. The video games kind of talk about it a little more, but again, the video games and the TV series are kind of standalone. They're both based off of the book series, but they're also their own things at the same time. So the TV series kind of filled in a bunch of blanks with certain characters. One of the heavily talked about confusing aspects of the show is that it seems like there's jumping back and forth of timelines and stuff, where it's kind of a mix of that, but it's mainly three different storylines following the three main characters, being Geralt, or Geralt. They pronounce it differently depending on which region you're in and stuff like that. But Henry Cavill's character, which he gets a lot of crap for the different movies he's done, like Superman, which I've talked about, Man of Steel rather. It's one of my favorite films. I love that movie, and it kind of gets crapped on, but it is what it is. Everybody's entitled to their own wrong opinion, so on and so forth. I think he does a great job at embodying Geralt, from just how monotone he is sometimes to his overall just kind of lack of care. Evil is evil, good is good. There's no, gray usually. And the show, I think the show did a great job really bringing him to life on the big screen. Well, home screen. But the show basically, like I was saying, it follows the three main characters. It follows Geralt's story of how so many different decisions all lead up to him being, spoiler, united with Ciri way down the line. Yennefer's storyline is kind of how, giving her backstory, a little bit of information. She was a deformed girl born from a poor farmer family. She's got elf blood in her somewhere a generation or two back. She's sold to the sorceress that runs the school of mages, who basically she struggles throughout the beginning of the season to really harness her powers, but then comes into when she really learns to harness all the pain and anguish she went through as a child. And once she does that, she changes, and the series really tells like how she basically becomes the person that Geralt meets and how he slowly kind of begins to change her perspective on things. And also how eventually they'll be both kind of bonded to Ciri. And then there's Ciri's story, which is peppered in there here and there, which is present day or slightly in the future of the other two storylines. So it's really kind of all over the place, but if you kind of treat each scene as its own story, unless like those characters are interacting in that scene together, they're generally completely different timelines usually. So it's kind of discombobulated, but parts of it work really well, parts of it don't. It helps if you know kind of the background of Geralt and Yennefer and, you know, Ciri and all that, but if you don't and you go into a blind, it's kind of a lot to try and figure out, and I could see how it could get confusing. And like I said, they didn't do a great job at explaining a lot of the lore around the Witcher world, which is one of the best parts about the game series and the book series, is there, like, each monster has its own background. Each witch or ghost has this awesome, crazy story of how a family was murdered or a village was cursed or this, that, or the other. And the show does a great job at establishing the fact that witchers are basically monster bounty hunters, and that's basically all they do. But there's a lot more to it in that they also, which they play a lot in the show, there's a lot of political intrigue in the books and the games, and where there's always these warring nations going after one another, and somehow Geralt gets mixed up in between just by going on a simple monster mission that it turns out to be a love interest or a, you know, dictator trying to take over another country, or the Nilfgaardians trying to infiltrate, or this, that, or the other. It always seems to be some political intrigue along the way, when all he wants to do is kill his monsters, collect his money, and move on. He doesn't really care about politics, and he thinks at the end of the day they're all kind of cutting their nose to spite their face, which I agree. But one of the big themes of season 1, I think, is very just clear from the get-go, is you can't fight destiny no matter how much you try. And that's one of Geralt's biggest things, is he quite bluntly tells destiny it can go fuck itself. And it kind of shows how it comes to bite him in the ass. There's the, you know, the Dooney, the hedgehog prince warrior who's cursed, who ends up being a secret love with the queen's daughter, who they both end up becoming the mother of Ciri. They're tragically lost in a shipwreck. And then, like, in this, it's like I said earlier, the destiny, it's all this cycle that just keeps kind of repeating with different people, you know. Dooney claimed the, what do they call it, the claim of surprise, where he claims something that the king doesn't know about, and it ends up being about his daughter. So he claims the hand of marriage of his daughter, who is the mother of Ciri, and then years later Geralt does them a favor and does the same thing and ends up being indebted with Ciri, and it's just this cycle that just keeps repeating, like I said, with just different characters. And a lot of, I don't know, mythological games or knights and stuff like that, honor and blood oaths and all that stuff are taken really seriously. And in this world, not only are they taken seriously, it seems that there's a magical weight to, like, bonds made. And it seems like the harder you fight either that bond or destiny itself, the harder it's gonna fight you. And it just makes it very apparent from, like, the queen just refusing to listen to the advice of her husband to embrace the destiny, and ends up going to war and causes literally her downfall. And you just watch things fall to shit because she fought so hard against destiny, when had she just hopefully accepted things or worked it differently, it might have worked out better. But I don't know, the show did a lot of great things. There are a few letdowns. I think my biggest letdown in the show is they just didn't give enough body to Geralt. I mean, all the ladies love his body, of course. The bathtub scene, I'm sure women are panties dropping for. Henry Cavill's a muscular man, and he did Geralt proud. And you know, one of the big aspects of the game is sex, and they did right in the movie or the show. They have plenty of sex. It was fun, you know, good for everybody. But I don't know. They did a great job of building the very cynical and kind of dark humor side that Geralt has. But I feel they kind of fell short on a lot. But at the same time, it's the first season. They're trying to introduce this huge world to everybody, mainly the three main characters. But at the end of the day, it's a great show. 8 solid episodes. There's a little bit of filler here and there. The monsters are great. The sword fighting is amazing. The CGI is on par. The practical effects are legitimately some amazing work done by craftsmen. Like, the Striga fight is, for one, like one of the best stories throughout the books and the games. They're awesome little horrific babies born from either cursed or dead mothers and all kinds of fucked up awesomeness. And Geralt ends up having to fight one, and it's just gnarly. Playing the games, you have to basically play that mission, and seeing it on the like play it out and everything, they did an amazing job. The effects were great. The fight was brutal. I wish Geralt would have used more of his magic and they would have explained it a little more, because they didn't really at all. But you know, again, they're trying to do a huge feat of introducing this world and this storyline in a very limited, you know, screen time. So I understand some choices had to be made, or hopefully in the second season they'll kind of flesh things out a little more. Ciri, I think her storyline, you really see how this girl who has been kind of sheltered and raised in a, you know, royal castle her whole life, everything, you know, everything she wants is given to her, has maids, servants, all that jazz, finally has to see what the real world is and how corrupted and how bleak existence is outside of the walls of the castle, and kind of see what all of the frivolous things and all of the niceties that she has at the cost of like the civilians and just the other nations that she ends up kind of stumbling into, who have been decimated by warfare or poverty or taxes from the king or this, that, or the other. And it just, she slowly begins to realize that it's not what, the world isn't what she thought it was. And along the way, she's, you know, trying to meet up with Geralt, who she knows literally nothing about besides the fact that Geralt of Rivia, and that's about all she knows. So she's running after a guy whose name she has, and that's it. Throughout her storyline, you kind of see her unleash these different powers, usually accompanied by an obnoxious shrieking scream. But, you know, it gets the job done and rips holes in the ground and all kinds of other stuff and saves her life time and again. She has somewhat prophetic vision, dream kind of things where towards the end of the season she hears Geralt calling for Yen. So the first time, we won't talk about that. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'm just trying to really, I don't know, give my opinion and kind of inform people to the world that is Witcher and what they're trying to accomplish with the show and what they did accomplish with the show. I don't know. So, no, not too many spoilers. I don't know. Geralt did a great job throughout the show, really showing off his fighting style, his worth, his character. He's very cut and dry when it comes to good and evil. And he makes that very apparent from, he's not ashamed or afraid of killing humans if they do some fucked up shit. He's solely not going to go after monsters, and sometimes even if it is a monster, if it's something like Torque the Sylvan, who is half goat man, centaur-like creature, he actually shows mercy, which in turn has mercy returned to him somewhat. And then again, it's a lot of give and take in the show. They're building this giant world and trying to, give these characters so much story and backstory and depth, which they did a great job with Yennefer, like seeing the torment that she goes through. Geralt, you don't feel like you ever really see a change in him, really, besides towards the end. You kind of see he understands that destiny is something to be considered, I guess, and not to just, brush off like he's been doing. I felt that Ciri, the actress, did a good job as the broken princess and all that. I just can't imagine her trying to be a badass fighting monsters, but I'm sure she'll do good. I'm hoping so. Some of the cool things in the show, I already talked about the swordplay. They did phenomenal jobs with that. Like, Geralt just rips through enemies, whether they're human or monster alike. The opening scene fight with the Kikamora is just a brutal fight, and you see the toxicity level that Geralt gets from taking his potions to both heal himself and kind of pump him up for the fight. Like, that's why his eyes turn black and he just looks fucking brutal as he's fighting this gnarly crab swamp spider that's fucking 20 foot tall, long, tall, one of those things. And it's just brutal. The Striga fight's awesome. The Sylvan was the little trickster. That was more of a, you kind of see how Geralt doesn't just use his, brute strength and his swords. He actually does show compassion, and he doesn't want to live up to the stigma that Witchers get for just being the cold-hearted monsters that they're made into. He definitely earns the title of Butcher of Baklava or Baklava or whatever, the Butcher, because he fucking rips those guys apart. He puts the sword through the guy's head and just like rips it out, and bleh. Fucking awesome sword work. But at the same time, they hate him, but he was really only defending what he thought to be good. He has a really good talk with Strigamore, who's kind of starts off trying to seem like he's the altruistic wizard, magic user. Turns out he's a piece of shit. That guy plays a big role later on. One of the coolest things, which I couldn't really find a whole lot of information about, was the gnarly assassin's bug monster creature that the assassin had going after Yennefer and the queen and her baby. It had like swords for legs or scythes for legs and was just gnarly. From the little information I can find on that, is usually they're creatures solely made and conjured from the mages or wizards to basically solely be assassin creatures. They're meant to kill and kill alone. That is all they do. And that thing was gnarly, especially, like I said, its little blade legs were awesome as it ran and cut through people and stuff like that. One of the big things were Dopplers, which are doppelganger shapeshifters. There's a million names for them depending on the lore. They're shape-shifting creatures that can assume the identity, body, voice, so much of a character's, existence almost besides their memories. Geralt really points out that they do well at replicating people's goodness because they can't understand the darkness in people because they've never had to deal with that kind of turmoil, I guess. But they look like anorexic albino orcs, or like a Michael Jackson had sex with an orc. I don't know, something like that. They're just creepy, pale, weird nose, but end up being pivotal in a lot of different, assassination attempts, and how, if any magical world where there's something that can assume the identity of something, or X-Men, Mystique infiltrates all kind of political powers and stuff like that. So in a magical world, you can imagine a doppelganger is going to do the same thing, or Doppler as they call Um, I think one of the coolest things to end up seeing was towards the end of the series. I'm telling my audio person to cover her ears, which is hard to do because she's got headphones on, because this is kind of a spoiler. But, sorry. Cover your ears. Or just go. Just do that in your head while I talk. When he confronts his mother, and I thought that was just kind of a real. You really see that Geralt's not the cold-blooded monster that they all make him out to be, and I don't know. I want to know more. I've only read, I want to say, 2 of the books so far, and neither of them had any of his backstory really. So I want to know more about it, if there is any, or if that's something that maybe the showrunners just made up. Because I know they made up a lot of Yennefer's backstory, but I think it all fit really well into the story and her character. I don't know. I know season 2 is coming out either late this year or early next year, one of the two. I'm excited for it. If you've played the games, I think you really appreciate what they did or what they're trying to do. The sword play and the action should live up to what the video games are. But I don't know. Like I said, I wish they would have used magic a little more, but when he does use it, it's like brilliantly done. Like in the video games, you gotta time it right and pick the right magic to use. The monsters were all really well done. I want to see more of them. So there's rumors that Mark Hamill wants to play Vasimir for season 2, which I would fucking love, because Vasimir is an awesome figure in the games, and in the book series, he's the guy, the mentor of Geralt, who raised him and everything. And really, as far as looks go, Mark has the looks. All he's got to do is grow his hair out a little bit. He's got his Jedi beard. He's already the Jedi Master. Why not become the Jedi Witcher Master? And, just fucking get your sci-fi and your magical, mystical fantasy stuff and mash it together and just be Vasimir and be awesome. That would be amazing. One of the big things a lot of people kind of had issues with casting was, which I kind of agree, is Triss Merigold, because in all the books, well, in the what I've read of the books and in the games, her look is very representative of her personality. She's a fiery redhead. She's got the very not abrasive, but confrontative personality. She doesn't take shit. In the show, she's a very attractive woman. I can't remember her name offhand. Dark skin, curly hair, just doesn't feel anything like Triss Merigold should feel to me. And I don't feel like they're going to have the connection that you feel that Geralt and her have in the games and books and stuff. But who knows? I think it is a solid show. I think they did a great job. There definitely could be improvements, but I think they knocked that out of the park with what they did. Mainly, I would just like to see them fill in the lore a little bit. It's just kind of, you're thrown into this world, not really knowing what witches are besides what you overhear people muttering behind his back, and then you're introduced to Jaskier, Jaskier is Dandelion, or Dandelion, from the games and books, but due to different translation issues from book to game to show, all that jazz, his name is Jaskier, which is also I believe, the Polish word for the same flower that is a dandelion, or something along the lines of that. So the whole time I was watching the show, I was like, that's gotta be dandelion. It's gotta be dandelion. It's the same characteristics, the fucking same stupid idiot who's always trying to fuck women and fuck up relationships. And it is rather. So that was awesome, and I think they did a great job with him. I don't know, if you've watched it, I'm sure if you haven't watched it, you're screwed, because I gave away a lot of stuff here. But it's a great show. I think they're going to really knock it out of the park with the second season. The showrunner, they've talked about having 7 seasons planned, which fucking bring it on. I will watch it all day long and then some. I've been replaying Witcher 3 now because why the fuck not? It is an amazing game, and it really puts you right into the world that they're building. One of the cool touches that they really did in the game as well as the show is the relationship that Geralt has with his horse Roach, which he talks to Roach like it's his best friend, and by all intents and purposes it is. It's the only one that's always with them. And they just, like, I don't know, it's funny. It's a great relationship in the games, and to see it in the show carry over, it's a cool thing that they made sure stayed attached. You also see that he uses his 2 different swords, which a lot of people were scared about in the original like teasers and posters and stuff. He only had 1 sword, but he does have his 2 swords, usually when he's going into battle, unless it's a last minute kind of thing, like the fighting I can never remember the name. Blaviken, there we go. Blaviken, where he just butchers everybody. I don't know. Past that, I'm really excited to see what they go with season 2. The final fight with the different mage groups, you really see how the Nilfgaardians really, just like the Jedi, they embrace the dark side, because that's one thing they kind of talk about briefly, is that the Nilfgaardians and their mage users have complete leeway to use whatever method of magic, including demonology, necromagic, or what do they call it? Necrophilia? No, that's something else. I don't know. Dark magic and all kinds of other messed up means, like the mind-controlling worms, while the women who are, well, mainly women who are trained at the mage school can use so many magics, but the darker side of them they're kind of forbid to use, or only in dire circumstances. And they really play a part how it's all give and take. It's almost like alchemy. There's got to be an exchange of loss and power with their magic. So one of their first lessons, they've got to use the life force from the dandelion, or the little flowers, to raise the rock off the ground, and Yennefer struggles with it. Then finally at the end, when she unleashes her like full power, you see how that, if you pay attention to the background, a lot of people, when I first watched it, I thought that she's just unleashing all this power, which yes she is, but she's channeling it from the fire in the fort behind her, and she's partially extinguishing it and absorbing all of that radiant power from the fires around her, and just fucking unleashing them on the Nilfgaardians, and just devastates them. And you see how powerful she really is, and how much she's willing to withstand. I think with her you saw the most character growth, both physically and mentally. You see her from this poor, beaten, disfigured, deformed girl who finds love, to a beautiful woman who doesn't care about love anymore, doesn't seem to, because she knows that at the end of the day it seems that everybody's got ulterior motives. Her whole thing is kind of like a quest for power, only to realize that's maybe not exactly what she wanted, and wanted more of a legacy kind of thing. But her story's kind of conflicted on a few different levels, but does an amazing job telling how she goes through so much turmoil to get to the point at the end of it to where she finally kind of has a soul again, because she's kind of heartless for a good chunk of the season, and at the end you finally see her like break down. And just like Geralt, like they both have, besides the gruff exterior and the callous way they act, they really do have hearts, and that's kind of why they're always going to be kind of linked but forlorn at the same time. But I don't know, check it out. It's a great show. If you don't like it, then that's on you. I don't know, you probably like stuff like, I don't know, Sharknado and other great masterpieces that like Troma produces, which, don't get me wrong, Troma does great at terrible, but Netflix is trying. They release a lot of content. I think Witcher is some of their best content that I've seen. I think it's got a lot of potential. I think they did a great job. Like I said, my biggest complaint is they didn't build enough of the lore into the world, which is really deserved, because part of the backstory that like makes Witcher are the monsters. That's where they come from. Like, it seems like every town has its own little monster, but in the games and in the books, it's like the fucking world is riddled with monsters, like Lord of the Rings almost, where it's not quite a fucking full-out war, but there's monsters everywhere, and Witchers are just like full sail butchering left and right to get rid of them. But they really established that they're fucking monster bounty hunters, and that's what they're there for. But Geralt always gets involved because he's got a heart, and they did a great job to really push that across in the show. I'm excited about season 2. I can't wait. I'm hoping this show goes on for a long time. I don't know. Past that, you can agree with me, disagree with me. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's to do words. They're tricky sometimes. I haven't had enough coffee. I'm gonna start mainlining it or snorting it or something. But I definitely plan on rewatching it and trying to find like all the little things of the lore that I do know, and trying to fill in things here and there. I definitely want to read all the books. So far, I've read 2 of them. I've got a few more that I'm definitely trying to check out. Some of them are linear, some of them are kind of standalone-y. But at the end of the day, they're great stories. Like, they have a lot of heart. They have every story, whether it's, about Geralt going to kill a gnarly monster or go undo a curse, there's always some nugget of heart or sadness or some kind of story that just pulls you into the situation and really actually makes you feel for what's going on. And I think the show's doing a good job of doing that. I really need to rewatch it and like really absorb all that there is, but it's good. I think they did a great job. Check it out. Until then, this has been my Curious Corner of Controversies. And I'd also like to thank my sponsors, not sponsors, but partners, and with Respawn, the energy drink. It's good stuff. It's keeping me awake, but maybe too much because now I'm crashing. And then, who else? Microsoft, Playgirl. That's next month. We have to wait on that one. But I don't know. Check out Witcher. Later on, I'm going to be doing some album reviews coming up. I plan on doing Mastodon and the Acacia Strain for metalheads out there. And I don't know. Right now, I've been playing some Red Dead Online due to the last video. That's been fun, riding horses and getting shot by random strangers. But I don't know, if you have any games or anything you think I should check out, send them my way. If you want to fucking find me on a video game and shoot me in the face, that's Quartervals159 is my gamer tag, I think, on pretty much all of my consoles. Past that, stay devious. We always do. And see you next time. Bye, y'all.